Welcome to the Missing Men. Tonight I'm going to get straight to it. This one is really hard for me to talk about, but I've watched what's going on in the news the past 2 days that's going on in Texas. And I contemplated whether I wanted to have my take on this or not, whether I felt like I should. The more I listened to what people were talking about, the more and more it made me realize we need to talk about this. Men, we need to talk about what's going on as it relates to what's happened in Uvalde, Texas. Now, for anybody that hasn't paid attention to what's going on in the news, and maybe you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll go to just some of the basic premise of what happened. But we're looking at 19 children killed, 2 teachers dead, others that were injured, including the shooter's grandmother that he shot before he went to the school. Man, I'm not getting on here to talk about some of the things that I've listened to other people talking about. This is real as it can get. What are we doing to make a difference? Nothing about what I'm going to talk about tonight is humorous. Nothing about what I'm going to talk about tonight is cracking a joke. If you're listening to this and you have kids, this should hurt. This event was no different than what's happened recently. In all honesty, the event that happened in Uvalde is not much different than what happened at Buffalo just, I believe, 2 weeks ago or less than 2 weeks ago. It hasn't been a long time since we've had a school shooting, one in which we've had this many deaths. It's not like we forgot about Sandy Hook. It's not as if we forgot about Columbine. We haven't forgot about those things. Not one is worse than the other or more important for us to think about. It's not. I think what bothered me about this one is I'm tired of seeing politicization of these events. I said when I started this series, I didn't want this to be about politics, and it's not going to be. But if there's one thing that's just gnawing at me as a man, is how we're watching people take these events and turn them into something for their own gain. Are they turning it into their political gain? Are they turning it into their social status gain? Is it the next big thing that you get to put on your status and say how important it is to you? But in all honesty, you don't even realize what's going on. People, I was taught at an early age to value life. I don't care what the color of skin is. I don't care what the gender is. I don't care whether you're tall, if you're short. It does not matter to me. I was taught to value life. I was taught to value life because this taught me what value was. It said in Bible to love one another. It said, treat others as you would want to be treated. It specifically talked about kids in Scripture, why we were supposed to value kids. Correct me if I'm wrong, but were we not just a couple of weeks ago talking about how so many people were tired of hearing folks talk about religion and the abortion industry because it's women's choice? We didn't want to talk about religion. But what did we have happen last night? Thankfully, our president did get onto camera and reference the Lord. I'm glad he did. But just last week, we were talking about women's choice and that we should accept a choice. And let's go on with the abortion industry. let's please make up our mind. What are we committed to? Men, what are we committed to? If we're committed to change this, guess what? Change your home if it needs to be changed. Let's start at home. Let's build it from there. And then from our home, let's go to our neighbor. From our neighbor, let's go to our next neighbor. From there, we'll go to our community. From our communities, we'll go to our cities, we'll go to our states, we'll go to our regions, we'll go to our countries, we'll go to our world. This is aggravating. It is. I hope everybody is aggravated right alongside me. I want to go through some stats of things that I looked up to put into context what's going on. Now, according to the CDC 2020 mortality data, now I'm going to get to why I'm referring to all these numbers in a second. But 2020 mortality data, we had 24,576 homicide deaths, 2020. Of those deaths, firearms were responsible for 19,384. So let's just round off some number. We had 25,000 homicide deaths, and we had just over 19,000 that were done by firearms. The reason I talk about that, do y'all see people just day in and day out diving off into homicide deaths in our country? No, it hits our news every night. Go live in a big city. Every night you're hearing about somebody that was killed. An attempted homicide that maybe turned into murder. What you're hearing about violence of people that are either dying or they're critically injured every night. But it's not like we're talking about that and we've got to change. Now we've got to change. No, it's just another night. Then the next night, more people die. Next night, more people die. Across the U.S., more people die. In a year, nearly 25,000 people died. Now, the reality is, I had no idea what that number was. I didn't. I'm not sitting here saying I'm one of those people that's been harping on about it. I haven't. I decided to look it up because I've been listening to all these people that keep harping about this and saying, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? But then I realized they never talked about this. I watched one individual. He harped about it and how bad this was. And again, very bad what happened. Absolute tragedy. I am not taking away. There are moms and dads. There's sisters. There's brothers. There's all sorts of family and friends that are mourning since this event has happened. I'm not taking anything away from that. I'm not trying to say I feel their pain because I don't know what they're going through. But I'm watching all these people talk about how we got to change this and we got to do something now. Got to do something now? We need to do something ages ago. But guess what? It's not just let's do something about gun control. We got to do something about violence. No, people, what we have here is a fundamental morality problem. Absolutely fundamental morality problem. The moral fiber of our country is just being whittled away and whittled away. And then we get to these moments when this happens and everybody wants to scream outrage. What did we think was going to happen? What did you think when you start blurring the lines of what's right and wrong and saying this is okay and that's okay? What did you think was going to happen when all of a sudden entitlement becomes this massive monster and we think it's all right? Guess what? What one little inch does today could become a massive mile tomorrow. But everybody thinks we just got to roll with it. No, everything has a consequence. When I said that I've listened to a couple of different people that have talked about their outrage. Specifically, there's some that's been coming out of the state of California that's been talking about this. So I decided to dive off into that state a little specifically. In 2020, yes. On these homicides I talked about, of that 25,000 number, 2,202 homicides were in the state of California alone. Of those 2,200 homicides, 105 of them were kids under the age of 18. Show of hands, anybody listening. How many of y'all have heard a celebrity talking about the 105 kids under 18 years of age that was killed in the state of California last year? I sure haven't. I'm not raising my hand. But now we got celebrities lining up to talk about this. How many of those celebrities knew that 105 sub-18-year-olds were killed last year in the state of California? Crickets. I can't tell you about them. I don't know that they have. I go back to the subject I just mentioned earlier. I've been listening to people talking about the tragedy of this being little kids and how kids should be safe in school, and absolutely they should. I don't want somebody mixing what I'm trying to say here. School should be a safe place. Our schools do their part to make it a safe place. But sometimes the devil comes knocking and it's hard to stop it. Evil's there. Sometimes these things are going to happen. I wish they didn't. I wish we could stop them. I wish we could press a button and it didn't happen, but we don't have that button. But people are making this about the tragedy of kids. Yet, let me go to another number. 2019, CDC. 629,898. Write that number down on a sheet of paper if you really want to feel the impact of this. 629,898. That is the reported number of abortions given to the CDC for 2019. That number excludes California, Maryland, and New Hampshire. They do not provide numbers for that. So obviously the number's a little higher. 1 year, 629,898. If the outcry is out there saying we need to be protecting our kids, why are we watching 629,000 of them be killed through abortions? Folks, this is painful. This is harmful. For those of y'all that are my age that are still raising kids. We're raising them in this. We're raising our kids in this cesspool of indecisiveness. We'll watch one political leader today use scripture, and then in a couple of weeks, we'll do something to completely negate that scripture that he used. They will grab God when God is convenient and will lean on him. But if it will crush a vote, they will set him to the side. By no means am I a perfect man. I'm not. I've made that very clear that I'm not. But I do know this. I know what my moral code comes from. My moral code does not stem from what I built. My moral code does not stem simply from just what my parents told me. My moral code, all day long, it tells me to be honest. It tells me to stand up for those that can't stand up for themselves. It tells me to value those, and it does not matter who they are, what they are. It doesn't matter about their demographics. It doesn't matter about their social status. It tells me to value them. It tells me, do not kill. It tells me, do not envy. It tells me, don't fall in love with that money. It'll mess you up. It tells me all sorts of things that help to solidify my moral code. What happened in Uvalde, Texas, destroyed moral code. I don't know this individual. I will not name his name. I will not give it any further credit. But this young man was hurting inside. I can't condone what he did one bit, but he was hurting inside. So my challenge to everyone tonight, there are people in your life that need you. They need to hear a kind word. They need to sense value in their life. You don't know what you may change. You don't know exactly what you may stop by going and doing something good for somebody. So what I'm challenging you to do is go out. Find somebody, find your neighbor, find your friend, find your kids' friends. It doesn't matter with me. There's somebody that needs you. They need to feel love. They need to feel wanted. They need to feel like somebody cares. Maybe your neighbor's yard needs mowing and their lawnmower's broke down. Go cut the grass for them. Maybe your own child, you just haven't walked into their room, told them that you love them. Spend an hour with them just talking. Go do it. I don't know what that answer is, and I'm not telling anybody how to figure it out. But man, let's start leading. I know we can do it. I know we need to do it. And if there's anything that I've seen over the past couple of days, is that now we need it now more than ever. Thank y'all for listening to me tonight.